So, good morning. Welcome to today's breakfast. Young, Black, and Successful in Springfield. Our moderator is Dominic Watson, uh, a, uh, a Citizens Club board member and a native of Springfield. Legislative Affairs Specialist for AFSCME, also president of the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce. And our program will start.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction. Thank you all for coming out today. Young, Black, and Successful in Springfield.
Hi.
One of the things we want to do today is have a relatively unfiltered conversation about both the triumphs and challenges of growing up, being successful, and being Black millennials in Springfield. So we'll start with brief introductions, and bear with us because we're all friends. We've known each other about close to 20 years here. So if we're laughing at each other or interacting in a way that is a little laid back, that's because we're all friends here. So to my right, Erica.
Good morning. I'm Erica Austin. I'm a native of Springfield, Illinois. I went through the public school district. I graduated from Southeast High School, went on to Lincoln College in Lincoln, Illinois, got my associates, transferred to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, got a bachelor's, returned back home, went to UIS, got a master's, and now I'm currently at Illinois State with my doctoral program.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have a passion for community service. I have a passion for youth. I believe that the youth are not the future, they are the present. And so it is my job to give back to the youth in any way possible to ensure that they have the same upbringing that I did, that the person that they can look up to show them the way. So I have done that in various capacities. I was a 4-H educator for 6 years where I, integrated 4-H with Metro kids. I was at the Boys and Girls Club when I returned back home for AmeriCorps. I was also a parent educator at Jefferson Middle School, and currently I'm at SIU School of Medicine as a community outreach coordinator, where I have a lot of different groups into the schools where I'm working on social emotional learning, especially with our young girls, working on their self-esteem and getting prepared for life. I'm also a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which is the first Black female sorority founded at Howard University in 1908. As you'll see, we all are represented some form today, and they'll let you know about what they represent today. So thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Larry Luster. I'm a lifelong Springfield resident. I went to Sacred Heart Griffin High School, graduated in 2004. Obviously, you can tell by my shoulders I played football there. A little bit. And gymnastics, cross country, too. So I went on to Harper College, William Rainey Harper College in the northwest suburbs of Illinois, of Chicago. I went there for 2 years, won a national championship there, junior college national championship in football. Then I went to SIU Carbondale on a football scholarship, played there for 4 years. I had a little, small stints here and there, mostly playing arena football. But what really sparked my career was in 2008, I joined my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and that's what really sparked my career. So, thanks, Zay. So from there, I became the president of my fraternity at SIU, and we were kind of in a bad space. So I took over there. We started doing voter registration, and we registered about 2,500 students and flipped 4 county board seats in Southern Illinois, changing Jackson County from red to more of a purple district. So then from there, I got an internship with the American Federation of State County Municipal Employees, where Dominic works. I interned there. I was a legislative intern for a semester. And then I went and interned for Planned Parenthood. I was their election intern for a semester. And then I joined Senate Democratic staff, where we're responsible for writing press releases, speeches, talking points, helping our members really develop their legislative agenda, doing outreach projects, helping build their lists. I mean, you kind of name it, jack of all trades. What needs to get done, let's get it done. Mm-hmm. From there, I was in management for a brief stint, and then I became the executive director of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. I was there at ED for about 2 years. We implemented a lot of programs. We started the first fellowship program, internship program, and actually a few of my interns are now employed, one specifically with the Lieutenant Governor and a few on staff. So I was able to kind of create that pipeline from not having a large space of black staffers, helping them get a pipeline so they can get into government. From after I worked with the Black Caucus Foundation, I went on to be the Attorney General Kwame Raoul's political and field director. We were able to beat the former Governor Pat Quinn in the primary, and then we went on to win the election against Erica Harold. After the election, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, so I was contacted by a firm called the Roosevelt Group out of Chicago, and they have offices in Springfield and Chicago, the Roosevelt Group in Reyes Curson, and I'm their, we call it the Director of Policy and Advocacy, but essentially I'm a lobbyist. We have a diverse array of clients. We work with rental car companies, healthcare, gaming. We work for large associations like the Restaurant Association, Hospital Association, energy, engineering. So we kind of cover the breadth of all issues. I think one of my major accomplishments last year was I worked on a program called Access to Justice, where we were able to secure $10 million for Black and brown communities for access to legal counsel and legal advice, creating community navigators so we can kind of help people out of their current, if they have a criminal issue or a record issue, helping them remove that issue so they can be prepared for better employment opportunities. So that's me. Oh, and by the way, I've known Dominic since I was in like 9th grade. I've known Erica since I was like 5.
And I've known you before you knew yourself and
Exactly.
you were in diapers, too. Right.
But I'll hand it off to the charismatic one.
My name is Tiffany Mathis. I am the CEO and Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Illinois as of January 2nd. So also lifelong resident of Springfield. I've left at different points in time, obviously to go to school and come back and all of that. I originally attended Jacksonville High School. I attended private school here in Springfield, Berean Baptist Academy, and then Calvary Academy for junior high. My father is Tony Williams, and my mother is Allison Williams, also known as Miss Allison in the community. My dad retired from Department of Corrections, and so he's originally from Jacksonville. We moved to Jacksonville when I was going into high school, and there kind of sparked and grew my love of singing, which is what I ended up going to Illinois State for. I was classically trained in opera starting in about 7th grade. I definitely am not an athlete. I don't like running, but I discovered that I could sing, and so that kind of was the conduit to get me to go to college. Stayed at Illinois State for about 5 years, lived in Bloomington, also discovered that if playing spades and drinking would have been a major, I would be awesome right now. So I left school because I'm a party girl, and came back home, regrouped, and in that process, discovered my love of community service. I was an AmeriCorps member for 2 back-to-back 1,700-hour contracts, and that's how I actually came into Boys and Girls Club originally when we were in Jacksonville, and just really started to see that although I couldn't save the world, the little ripples that I could make in my community and helping families and being of service to youth was going to make an impact for years to come, so those ripples would eventually turn into waves. I left, I came back, I had my daughter Avery, who's here with me today, and decided I need to get serious about life, and she definitely brought a lot of focus to that for me. So I completed my degree online through Ashford University, which is based at the time in Clinton, Iowa, in psychology, and did amazingly well in my 30s as a student compared to 18. I just really would like to highlight that throughout that process of me having my daughter, being a single parent, trying to navigate those systems, I took advantage of every resource and program that was available. So that's WIC, that's SNAP, that's Child Care Assistance Program, that was financial aid in school, everything I could have access to, I did that, and just really want to highlight that there are a lot of us who take advantage of those programs and do well versus what the media chooses to focus on. People abusing the system is not real in the droves as which they would present them. I am a product of that. So started to really kind of grow as an adult and in my leadership, and decided, I really want to make a difference and an impact in my community in a bigger way. So how do I do that? And reemerged back here in the Springfield community. and started working at Boys and Girls Club actually in 2015 as a unit director, kind of mirroring what I had done in Jacksonville over those 9 locations that we had there. And just really started to get involved. I became a Rotarian, which John Kelker's in the audience today. Thank you, John. And I've just really, Rotary for me really grew my love of volunteerism and what we could make an impact in, and building those friendships here in town. And honestly just kind of pivoted off of that and grew a lot of relationships and got involved and said yes to all of the things. So again, I work at Boys and Girls Club. I am the vice chair of the Illinois Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service, which oversees AmeriCorps, which I really enjoy, in addition to serving on multiple boards and being on a million different things. So I don't want to be too long-winded about it, but just glad to be here today.
So one of the things I didn't say when I introduced myself is I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. None of my brothers are in the audience, but yo, anyway. We founded in 1911, Indiana University, and so I just want to put that out there. Historically black fraternity, where our represented historically black organizations have cultivated, right, a lot of our upbringing and a lot of our passion for service in the community.
And I'll just interject there. My father is a Mason, and so I grew up, really loving the Masonic order of how things were, and so I'm an Eastern Star. I'm not in a Greek-lettered black fraternity or sorority, obviously, but that was very influential in my life, so.
Absolutely. So Erica and Tiffany, you both, most of your adult career have worked with the youth here in Springfield, Illinois, or Springfield area. Can you guys just talk about that, how you all grew up and what actually just led you into that, and what has motivated you in your present day careers to keep going?
So I grew up in a single parent household. My father left when I was 7 years old because he got onto drugs. And so I saw my mom struggle. I saw everything that a single parent would have to go through. I saw that. My mom, but she was a phenomenal mother, and her strength is what really has carried me on. She saw fit to put me into a program called the Springfield Urban League ARP program, which stands for Adolescent Responsibility Program. And that was under Doris Chambers, who was a phenomenal woman. She became my mentor. She showed me that I didn't have to take the path that my father and brother had taken, but I could be better than what my community had, my surroundings had showed me. So a part of this program, we did college tours, we did self-esteem. I found out who I was through this program at the Springfield Urban League. And then from there, I went to college, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because Ms. Chambers had put me in these leadership roles that I didn't even know that I was capable of doing. I remember we had started there was a national program, and every urban league was supposed to have a branch. It was called New Lights, which meant for National Urban Leagues, incentives to excellence and succeed for young people. And I was determined to be the secretary. I was like, I want to be the secretary. I got this. And she was like, no, you're the president. I was like, no, I'm not. I want to be the president. But she was like, no, you can do this. And so she believed in me enough to be the president. I was sent to UCLA for a national conference. I opened up for that conference, and I was just like, wow, I can do this. So from her her believing in me and putting me in leadership roles, I went to college and say, hey, I want to do something like that. I want to be able to give back to youth who were in my same predicament, who thought that there was no way out, who thought that I can't really go to college because my mom didn't go to college, my dad left, my brother left. So what is there for me to do but to, put that spark in these young kids that say, hey, you can make it regardless of your background, regardless of what anyone tells you, you can make it. And so that's what started me on my path, and I've continued that path. I started stuff in Iowa when I was in Lincoln, and now I'm back at home to get back to my own community. But Ms. Chambers was the reason why I am here today. So, thank you.
Tiffany.
I would say for me, my mother has been an educator in this community forever. So that was through being the director at various daycares, Parents as Teachers program, working at Springfield Urban League Head Start. My mom just was always, serving families and youth, and it's kind of like being the teacher's kid where you're like cutting stuff out at home going, oh my God, I hate this so much. And then it just kept being the thing that I was returning to, so I just stopped fighting it and really just wanted to advocate for youth and families because my mom's example of how she treated people and how people viewed her in the community, there would be a mom pushing her child in a stroller and it would start to rain and my mom would pull over and we would give that woman and her child a ride. My mom just really showed me that it's like we need to all take care of each other, right? So that's like our job here in the community is to take care of each other. And I just think that youth and senior citizens are my jam. I love them. And I think that they are a very underrepresented and often discarded group of people, and people don't always value their voice. So I just wanted to make sure that, people felt cared for, that youth felt cared for, that they felt seen in a way that I had been seen. I went through a Star Kids program. I don't know if any of you remember that. It used to be at Mr. Page. Ken Page used to run that at Springfield Southeast, and we would do like science experiments. There was like a lot of, black-focused youth programming there back in the day, and the church had a real stronghold in the community as far as keeping all of us involved. My Girl Scout troop was at Zion Missionary Baptist Church. I was involved with the Wood River Baptist Convention. They had a youth choir, and we would really. I went to private school, so I didn't really get to hang with all my peeps, so this was like the spaces in which I would see my people. I'm like, yes, okay, this is great. So again, I just, piggybacking off of what Erica said, you want to create that environment for people here in your own community, for students, so that they can also know that there's life beyond Springfield, and there are opportunities here too. And you can make an impact, but I definitely would say it's just those examples of like really strong people. I went through Delta Sigma Theta's La Petite program. I still remember which fork to start with because of that. Jeanette Goza is in the audience and was one of the lovely ladies over my program, as was Terry Jackson, who's no longer with us. So it just was really impactful, and there's just so many beautiful brown adults in this community that really just like loved on all of us. Ava Carpenter's in the audience is one of those people that I grew up with my whole life. So, people really just make an impact. It just was really great. So I wanted to be able to do the same thing here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a few of those individuals in the audience have been inspirations for me, including Jeanette Goza. She was my 24 challenge coach in third and fourth grade. Yeah. Ava Carpenter has been instrumental. I see a few other familiar faces, but I apologize if I don't include. But the black and brown community specifically, because that's what we represent, is instrumental in pouring into not just us, but a lot of the other youth, a lot of the other millennials, a lot of the other baby boomers on through the Gen X. Have been instrumental in the development and getting us to where we're at.
And still today.
Absolutely,
Healthy.
Still today, as you can see by how this audience is represented.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you for that. That coming from one millennial, representing the millennials up here. Thank you for.
I really feel like I'm like on the cusp of the millennial life. I'm always like, ugh, because I have got the work ethic of a baby boomer. Okay,
Right. Well,
I'm just saying, like,
look, I'm probably on the cusp too, but
Right.
I'm owning it. I'm owning the millennial.
I can't
I'm a
do it.
millennial.
I can't do it.
So, most of us have had experiences where we were in a space where we weren't the majority, right? I can go back to high school years. I too went to a like, for lack of a better description, all white high school. Ursuline Academy, now debunked, but I'm proud of Supersonic to be exact. Proud.
Supersonic.
Larry, you talked about you attended Sacred Heart Griffin. I had the opportunity to go. I chose not to though. For the record. But could you talk about that, and then we'll lead it into Tiffany and Erica also talking about their experiences.
Sure. So I think So I went to SHG my freshman year, and the first thing I realized is that I was the only black person in my graduating class. It was like just me. So if we had a conversation during Black History Month in history, everybody's like, "Hey,
Yeah, yeah,
Speak on that.
answer these questions for us."
yes.
But I think it kind of I've told other people this, like it helped me understand white culture a lot better. So I was able to navigate professionally in a way that I feel like a lot of my counterparts didn't understand, just because they didn't understand, just some of the cultural pieces, like what Ash Wednesday was the day before yesterday. So I remember when I came to SAG, I was like, why do these people got these little marks on their head?
Right.
I'm like, okay, it's Ash Wednesday. This is part of it, But understanding that, and then walking to a professional space, and then this is like I'm 13 or 14 when I'm finding this out. There's people 28 walking to a professional space, and they see ashes and they don't get it. So I'm able to walk and navigate in a way that I feel like that SHG kind of gave me an advantage. Now, there was like the disadvantage, right? There were things that you had to stomach a lot of the time. Like there was like small little racial issues that would pop up here and there. But there's two ways that you can handle it, in my opinion. For one, I feel like a lot of people are just ignorant to decorum, and they really don't understand like black culture in a real way. Like we're up here talking about fraternities and sororities, but I know like a lot of my white counterparts, they're like, well, I was in the frat in high school, it's over. But in black culture, this fraternity and the sorority and Masonic and the Eastern Stars, this is kind of like a lifelong commitment. This is the way that we give back in our community. This is the way that we develop other young black children, because historically there just hasn't been those opportunities for these kids to grow outside of church and 1, 2, or 3 or 4 civic organizations available. So we kind of surround ourselves around these kids. And I know in Chicago, when I was working with Kwame, they have the Kappa League, where they have like this huge building where they have after school programs. Or in St. Louis, my brother's also a member of my fraternity, and they do the Squires down in St. Louis, where they take young men and help them understand like certain things, like Tiffany said, how to use how a table is set up the right way, like just decorum and etiquette, how to navigate situations, how to position yourself in a way so you can be successful in the future. So my experience at SAG was definitely eye-opening. So it's funny, I have conversations with my dad, and my dad was like, I didn't see any white people on a regular basis until I went to SIU, and then when he went to Iowa, that was a complete transition.
Yes.
Imagine being in a situation,
Most definitely.
like this is regular for me. I'll always consistently go into a room and be the only 1, 2, or 3 runoff of black folks, and I understand it, and it's fine, but then it puts me in a situation where I have to represent my entire culture, so I have to do everything that I'm doing the right way. I have to be
Absolutely.
On.
I have to be on.
Always.
Yeah,
24/7.
yeah. When
24/7.
you're a black professional, you have to be on your stuff. There's really, there's some space for a few mistakes here and there, but if you can automatically be written off if you make too many mistakes too quickly. Whereas your white counterparts, they may not have like those back cultural
Or even be pressured
mores.
to work that hard.
Yeah, they might have that black cultural space where they're like, oh well, that's how they do it. So I think it was going to SAG, being the only black person in my graduating class, like I said, gave me a definite advantage, and I realized that in my counterparts, when they'd ask me questions about how certain things should be navigated, and I understood them and I could walk them through that, but everybody doesn't have that experience. So it puts a lot of people that are black in professional settings at a mild disadvantage, just because there's that cultural breakdown. And there's nothing wrong with having different cultures, because we're all one, but we're all unique in our own way, and that's fine. That's completely okay. But I think, like I said, just rounding this up, being the only black person in my graduating class had its disadvantages, because there was no one I could relate with, but also had its advantages because I understand how to navigate in different situations.
And can we also add to that, like, you got the reinforcement at home, correct?
Yeah.
We got.
So my dad's a minister, and my mom, she was, damn near a Black Panther.
Right.
But in the space where, she wanted me to be proud of my tradition, proud of history.
Right.
Like, if you walk through my house, it looks like a light museum. There's a poster of the first 13 black congressional members. There's a copy of the Green Book in my house. There's Bibles placed all over the place. There's African art all over the place, because my mom understood that, we live in Cokie Mill, and there might be one other black family in this whole situation, but Larry, I want you to be proud of where you came from. I want you to find strength in where you came from, and that's really where I draw my strength. Like, if you think about it, my grandparents were sharecroppers. The parents before them were likely to be slaves, if not sharecroppers as well. So, I draw off that. That's my strength. I know that in my bloodline, that I came from these people. I have to represent what they fought for. You know,
Absolutely.
every day when I walk into a room or when I submit a paper or submit whatever it is, like I represent them. I put that on my back, but that's my strength. That's where I draw like my gastrointestinal fortitude, if you will.
And someone once said to me that, like, as a brown professional person, and really just a brown person, everything you do right in the immediate will affect the next 7 generations of your family.
Right.
Like, that's a lot to carry. You know what I mean? And for me, growing up here in this community was a little different because my mother is also an immigrant from the West Indies. So not only are we brown, my mom's brown with an accent, which weren't here at the time that many folks that had that. So that added a whole nother layer of not only do you need to be proud to be brown, you need to be proud because my grandfather was born in Cuba and immigrated. And I still, one of my friends, Jorge, is here, and we were talking about how frustrating it is to be Black and Hispanic because people don't really understand that. And I find it disheartening to watch brown folks, Black people, take issue with Latinos or Latinx people, right? Like about certain things, because I'm like, but there's a lot of us that are both, you know, and just by looking at us, you wouldn't necessarily know that. So I think that for me, it added a level of complexity because I did go to private school and was like one of 3 brown kids in private school. And Calvary Academy for me really highlighted the drastic difference between all of us because it was racial differences and then class differences because I'm going to school with, you know, doctors' kids, lawyers' kids, and then we don't live on the same side of town. I wasn't Black enough for my Black friends, and I was just Black enough to be too Black for my white friends. And then I spoke like this and dealt with a lot of trying to straddle that world of speaking well because my father worked for Department of Corrections, and if you didn't do that, you would end up in prison, was always his thing. All roads lead to prison, so keep it together. And I joke about that all the time, but that was very real in my house. You know, so it's a lot of pressure to be under, and as you're kind of growing up and living through that, and then I had a grandmother who was very fair-skinned, but very fiercely about being on her Black stuff, and told me at a very young age, like, I'm gonna teach you how to work with white people, because if you don't understand this, you will not be successful. And I know I am not cleaning people's floors and cutting hair and doing all these jobs to elevate my family, and for you to fall flat is not going to happen. And so my grandmother was very intentional about the instruction and constantly pushing that message and telling me I had to be better and you have to work harder, and, you know, my whole life. So not that disappointments didn't happen, but, you know, that's just something that gets reinforced. So to your point of growing up and especially going to school in predominantly white environments, you know, there's just a lot of trying to figure out, why was my teacher mean to me today for no reason? Or why did this frustration happen? Or why am I not really understanding what's going on? Or why do you not understand where I'm coming from? And my mother was very into Roots at the time, because that was on like all the time. I watched Roots. I could speak the whole script at this point, but that was my mother's way of saying, like, you need to know what your heritage is, where you come from. We had a Black Jesus at home, you know, like the queens of Egypt, all of that. So I understood, you know, we came from a very proud, strong people and lineage of folks, and what that looks like. So
It's funny that you say that, because my mom was to a Panther from East St. Louis, Black Panther, became heavily involved in that. But she reinforced the fact that Black culture is everything. Black culture is everything. I remember to the degree that at one point in time in the 90s, back when fashion was really taking hold, she would only buy FUBU for us, by us. And also, the original Million Man March, she kept us home. We didn't go to school that day, right? Because it was that big of a moment in history for us. She cried when President Obama was elected. She cried for hours, right?
But you want to know something about that too? Because I was really excited about Obama getting elected, and my grandmother was not. And I was like, Grandma, like, this what you don't work for, girl? You sat at separate counters. And she was like, no, I'm not excited. I'm worried for him, and I'm also worried for what's going to happen to this country after he is done. And I was like, Grandma, you know, like, be uplifting, you know what I mean? And I did not understand until he was no longer in office. And my grandma called that 8 years ahead of time. And I just didn't get it, you know? So shout out to like grandparents, man. That's my point though, you know? Like there's just so much knowledge there. Y'all are brilliant.
Erica, you want to? Yeah.
I think my first experience with knowing like difference, it wasn't in the growing up in Springfield. 'Cause like I said, I had Miss Chambers who was always there. My mother made sure it was reinforced in the home. But when I went to Drake University, it was very apparent. Out of 5,000 students, it was only 250 of us. And so a lot of my classes, well, most of my classes, it was just me. And like Larry said, you know, you became the spokesperson. Right. And I was just like, I don't really know, like, why am I in this predicament? I never had experienced this. It was definitely a culture shock for me, definitely a culture shock. And I remember, like, my white schoolmates, they were saying things, and I would just get so angry because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that is not how the black culture is. And I remember I would call my mom, and I was thinking she would get angry with me. And she was like, I need you to calm down. I need you to calm down. Because you need to realize that where they're from, they have never seen a person like you who is intelligent, is black, and it has been, I need you to calm down, and I need you to show them better than you can tell them. And I was just like, I was taken back by my mother saying that. She was like, no, we're not going to get angry. I sent you there for a reason. You are there for a reason. You are there to show versus tell. So while I was there, I began to like get involved, do different things, and I remember I'm a dancer, so I remember I opened up for this show, and this white older lady came to me, and she said, I don't mean no disrespect. She said, but I've never seen an African American dance so beautifully. And I was like, what? Like, you haven't heard of Alvin Ailey? You haven't seen Alvin Ailey? What is going on? Like, what? But I mean, I think, I was, like my mom said, I was put there for a reason. I was the game changer. I was there to show them that there are intelligent African Americans there who are just as bright, who come from good families, who come from good stock. And like Tiffany said earlier, like we're put in the media as one thing, but we're not shown the true light. So I think I was put in a place such as Des Moines, Iowa, to bring forth that light, and then having my mom there just to reinforce me that I cannot get upset every time someone says something that I don't think is correct about our race. I cannot keep getting upset. I just have to show you. So I feel like from that experience, when I went to 4-H, which is predominantly white, and I was able to draw all those African-American youth into 4-H, they were faced with the same. We would go to conferences, we would go to meetings, and they would be the only ones. And those kids would say the same things to them, but I would always hear my mother's voice say, don't get upset, just teach them how I taught you. And so I was able to show my kids how to navigate in different settings just as my mother taught me to do. So that was my experience.
I think one thing that we have to point out is everybody on this board can point to more instances when they're in a room with more white people than black people.
That's every day.
Like every day.
Every day.
I think the one part that like really highlighted it for me is like I go to the gym all the time. I like to lift weights and be mildly physically a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, just in case like a car falls on somebody, I want to be able to save lives.
A car, of course.
Save lives. But the one thing that really stuck out to me is when I worked on Kwame's campaign. I lived in Hyde Park, which is like black intelligence mecca where Obama came from and all these other historic black figures came from. And I go to the gym. So I go to LA Fitness here in Springfield, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll probably be like the only black dude in the locker room. But you go to like LA Fitness in Hyde Park, like right on 53rd in Hyde Park, it's like it's just it's so different. It's such a transition, and it's mildly empowering because you know that these people have similar experiences and have heard similar things that you've had to heard as you navigate through life.
You can take the mask off for a moment.
I want to encourage people, like the most segregated day of the week is on Sunday. So I want to encourage people to get outside their comfort zones and get in spaces that they're not accustomed to. Like it's just funny, like just thinking about it. Like I'd bring some of my white friends to like black spaces. They'd be like, "Am I going to be okay?" I'm like, Yeah.
First question.
Like,
Yes.
Very
yeah, like,
first
like,
question.
yeah, come hang out. Like, you know.
Like,
you're
am I gonna be okay at job and say?
you know, like, but this is like almost a regular occurrence, even into adulthood. Like, people still make these like little comments, but it's more.
Yes.
But I see it more about like education. Like, you have to educate people because, you know, if you want to reach one, you got to teach one. So if people are ignorant about something or they don't know, then it's your responsibility as someone who's approaching. They're comfortable in this space,
Right.
talking to you about this. So you have to be comfortable enough to relay the message. Like, well, you don't need to say like, oh, he's a good one. You know, I hear that all the time.
Oh,
You're a
That
unicorn.
part.
You're a good one.
Yeah.
You know, but you say like, wow, you have a really a special set of abilities, and I'm, you know, really impressed by your talent. You know, something like that. You would hear you.
Not, you're so articulate.
Can we get a clap for that? Can we?
But I mean, this is just something like, you know, I've been hearing this stuff all my life, so I don't even like.
Yeah.
I wave it off so quickly. Like,
Right.
I'm like, no, just say this instead. You know,
It's an important thing that you just said there. We experience this every day of our lives.
All day. Every day.
Every day.
All day.
We don't realize
Regardless
it's
of
just,
what space.
But you know, when we talk about privilege and people get super tight when you use the P word, all that means is there are things you just don't have to worry about that
Right.
the rest of us do. It's
Absolutely.
not something you've decided to be intentional about as much as it is you don't have to worry about your safety because everybody looks like you everywhere you go. You don't have to worry about if you're not going to get this job because your customer service voice sounds white and then you're going to show up and they're going to see that you're brown.
Right.
And trying to figure out, and I've had people look at me like, "Oh, you're Tiffany." Uh-huh, I am.
Yeah.
Or there again, we have to play the game at such a high level all the time.
Right.
People don't understand what that feels like to
It's tiring.
right,
It's
and
tiring.
then to have my
tiring.
white counterparts like discount things when I'm like, "Hey, that was really hurtful when this was said." Well, I don't really think they meant. Yes, they did.
Yeah, that
yes, they did. I've been
did what they
around long
said.
enough. I've heard enough. I know enough. And, you know, and when we talk about having white allies, please be a full-time ally and don't pick and choose when you want to decide to stand up for your friends or support us when we're telling you that things are wrong, because it's just, I really hate that. And it happens too often where you all want our support all the time, but when we are sharing things with you and we're telling you things or we're being vulnerable in our space to be like, oh my God, like today was just so rough, please don't discount what we're telling you because it's very real. And it's so abundant in such micro, small ways that would not seem apparent to other people. We know that feeling. So just support your folks, regardless of whatever their walk in life is. If you're an ally, just please be a full-time ally.
And to take that a step further, if you have one of us, well, not just one of us, but any
There's only like 4.
any black or brown person has a seat at your table, right? Listen, right?
Yes.
Listen. The ideas are there, right? Don't regurgitate our ideas months later, weeks later, years later as your own, right? When you didn't champion them when we initially spoke them, right? Because we've all been in spaces where that has happened. And you're talking about complete smack in the face, you know, when you're opening up the newspaper or you're in another meeting and all of a sudden you see something that you had talked about years later and someone else is saying it who doesn't look like you and now it's front page news.
All the time.
I mean, that is the most egregious act, for lack of a better description, that can never happen to someone who's black or brown, professional, who has passion to move forward the community, and that happens. But the real theme here is challenges to triumph, right? Challenges, everyday challenges that we experience every day, right? And to me, and it sounds like it's correct for the other 3 of you, I mean, it's everyday experience, but we feed off of that, right? It motivates us.
Oh yeah, because I'm gonna show
Absolutely.
you, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm gonna show you very
I
much.
cannot
Yes.
tell you, even to this day, I will have people say to my face, "Well, I don't really think you have a lot of experience in blah blah," and I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna need you to check my resume
Absolutely.
and
Period.
the 18 million letters that I'll have to bring with me." It's things like that still get said to me where I'm kind of like, so what more do I have to do though?
Right.
You know, like it never stops. So I know there's been a lot of fanfare lately. I've been getting a lot of awards and things, and people are like, oh, I see you all the time, and that's really, really great. And I may not seem as excited all the time when people bring that to me, because I'm like, okay, so a lot of these things are happening off of like 10 years worth of intentional
Right.
work and not being seen and not being heard and not being recognized. So it seems like a lot right now, but I've been working really hard for a really long time. And I
Absolutely.
really wish I wouldn't have to say that. But there's a lot of front end work for professional black people in this community that a lot of my white counterparts I know would crumble under the pressure on a daily basis to have that level of expectation of output. People say, well, when do you sleep? And you're running all the time. Yeah, but I have to, because had I not done that, I wouldn't even be able to be in the conversations or the spaces I'm in now.
Absolutely.
Right.
So now that I've gotten to be a CEO, that's really great. But guess what? I get to run even harder. And now I really have to start figuring out, well, what do I take off the plate to put something else on? There is never an unloading of the plate. There is no balance. It's only sacrifice in my world. So it's not being present. It's having my kid here, and she'll probably be late for school, or, and I'm a school board member, so try to limit those interactions. But it's no balance. And people talk about work-life balance. That is not real.
Right.
I sleep, but it's very few hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you're trying to fit everything in. So also, when people are busy, like, just support them in being busy and stop looking at them because they're crazy and they're running and you're all over the place. And Erica, because listen, Erica also is like the Pied Piper of teens. I give her so much kudos and credit.
Absolutely.
My God, it's great to have friends that run as hard as my friends do, because it makes me feel better. Like, okay, I don't look crazy because all my other friends are running like this. So
And can we please talk about this highway warrior right here?
Yeah, I know,
'Cause, I
right?
mean,
Right.
he is traveling statewide on a consistent basis.
yes,
Yes.
Every day. Every
it's a
day.
lot,
It's
but
fun.
it's a lot, but it's necessary.
And we have to say yes.
All the time.
All the time. All the time. And you wonder why we're involved in so many activities. We're on so many boards, right? Because we don't have the opportunity to say no. Because if we say no one time, we won't be in the conversation again.
Yep.
And you're letting down the ancestors, and they will haunt you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They will haunt
Absolutely.
you in your sleep.
So, go ahead.
And also, like, we don't get a chance to have a bad day. So, like, like we
Ever.
said, we never get a, for us, if we have a bad day, then we're angry. We're not angry, just having a bad day. So, like, I was just like to see us, some people let us, like, just have a bad
Have
day
a
sometimes.
moment.
And it's okay. Because, like Dominique said, like, we feed off of each other. And so, we, like Mama J, Jeanette in the audience, like, or Ava, I have to text them constantly, and they are like the people who calm me down, because I don't have a safe person besides the people up here that I can talk to, because it's never okay to have a bad day.
Because also
So-
people waiting for the other shoe to drop on you.
Right.
And they
Right.
want to see you
Right.
fail, and they want to see you drown. And I am
Right.
very, very aware, because the higher you move up and the more you got going on, the haters are so real. And it's kind of like, sis, bro, work harder. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I'd like to sleep.
So-
But no, they're waiting for you. And you
I-
can't have a bad day. You can't be off.
I mean, I feel the same way. Like, hard work is something that I just rooted myself in. And, there's all this, top line stuff about people feeling certain ways and people having their little racist connotations and stuff like that. But I just, I played for Coach Ken Leonard, and if you guys know about Ken Leonard, he preaches hard work. I played for Coach Kill, they preach hard work. So you just have to outwork people.
Absolutely.
Simply.
Absolutely.
In period. I mean, just put the hours in, because you just get to check away at that rock. So, like, I don't really let that stuff shake me too much. Like, whatever, I'm gonna outwork you. How about that? Let's go.
Hey,
Look, can I
Let's
can I
compare.
do this real quick, because I feel like we're representing like this larger black excellence in Springfield. So could I have anyone in a leadership position and other to just stand up? If you are in the audience and you're black or brown and you're in a leadership position in Springfield or other, can you please stand up?
go ahead.
Can you please stand up?
We know you're in here.
Okay.
So see, there are more of us professional, young black professional individuals in Springfield.
And they can serve on your
Contrary-
boards too.
Right.
I know Justin Rose ain't busy enough.
Right.
He needs more boards to serve on.
Contrary to what is said, contrary to what is believed, there are black professionals who are achieving at a high level right here in Springfield. Some of them may be from other places that call Springfield their home. Some may be here for a short period of time, but let's embrace each other while we're here. Let's embrace, right? Because again, our challenges, right, you may or may not have been aware of, right? But it's easy for you to embrace, right? And I'm talking to our those who don't look like us, right? Embrace, have a conversation, right?
And everybody is
Open
not
up.
going to be super nice all of the time, you know?
Right.
At all.
Right.
That's a whole thing too, trying to be digestible enough for everywhere that you gotta be. I'm just being honest, like it's really tiring to smile and yeah, that's great and wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'll be there. It's a lot.
Right.
It is a
Absolutely.
lot, and
So-
but it's required for people to approach you.
Right. So Q&A now. Ask us anything.
Hold on real quick.
That's-
I want to recognize Erica. If you notice, the governor put the Pan-African flag above the Capitol and at his house, and they were Erica's flags.
Hello.
So if there's any questions from the audience that you want to pose to the panel, or any comments, any challenges that you want to talk about,
This is a
Bob
safe
is
space,
passing around the mic. Look,
We will not get upset.
it's for those who don't know, it is Black History Month, right? So
Like the last day.
the last day, yes. So
it's tomorrow. I'm sorry, we got an extra day this year. Leap year.
Yesterday. So Bob is carrying around the mic. So if there's anyone, I expect you all to have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to keep our answers brief so we can have some.
We'll start with Julio.
Thank you. Guys, I have a question since it's a safe space. In the Latino community, we get asked all the time that we take people's jobs. But for the black community, trying to always empower the black community to take the jobs that can represent the community a little bit more balanced, like the police and fire, I always ask, because there's one gentleman, he told me one time in confidence, I hate to sound racist, but if more blacks take up those jobs, that's one less white person employed. And it was always difficult for me to balance making people unemployed while at the same time trying to get people to be employed. And I wanted to know, how would you answer that? Because when it comes to Latinos, it's very easy, don't come to the country. But how could
We want you in the country. It's
Right.
important.
What? Look, embrace, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ignorant rhetoric that's existed for 100 plus years is still going to exist when we're done, tomorrow, the day after, as you're seeing at the national level now. Ignorance is going to exist. But Larry said, each one teach one, right? No, we're not falling for those talking points. We're not falling for it.
Nope.
That's complete BS, right? When black and brown people are 20 to 30% of the population and you're worried about one job, you got a problem, right? Or a couple jobs. When the rate in which we're employed from a workforce standpoint is under 5%, right? I mean, you have a problem if you're using that talking point. So, Julio, to answer your question, blow them off. Blow them off.
Yeah, I think
That's
that.
absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like the job market's pretty good right now. So when people make those kind of comments, I'm like, you're not working hard enough.
Right.
I promise you.
Plain
not.
and simple. I mean, if you want it, go get it. Period.
And also, like Kendrick Lamar, I know that, look, I love rap, had made a statement about like, I can't fake humble because you're insecure either. And I'm
Right.
not doing that anymore.
Absolutely.
Where you try to uplift somebody else. Well, it might be a little work. Nope, you do need to work harder.
I can't dumb myself down,
Not doing
right,
it.
to make you feel better about yourself, right? Because I have to achieve at a high level. I'm gonna keep doing it,
Yep.
right? Keep doing it. I'm not gonna bring myself down to make you feel comfortable.
First of all, let me say that I'm a fan of all four of you guys. I've been watching in the shadows, and you're doing a great job in the community, especially you, Erica, with the Post. I've been doing consulting here for the last, I would say, about 10 years. And like I said, you probably don't see me because I do not go into the nonprofit sector. I'm basically in the for-profit sector.
I've seen you.
Oh, you
We've
see
seen
me.
you.
I'm
Okay.
everywhere.
Seeing you.
My question is, one of the engagements I had, and I'll make this really short, that we had somebody try to innovate or do a software program for accounting, but they did not know accounting. And my question to the millennials, and I ask everybody this, from Candace Owens or to you guys, at what point do we look at intercultural talent like David Stewart, that's a billionaire, black billionaire in Maryland Heights, when you start talking about Rudy Davenport that was here, all the pillars that was here in Springfield, is there a way to merge intercultural talent so we don't appear to, one, excuse me for saying this, make white people the measuring stick, versus making us the measuring stick? I don't view white people as opposition. I view them as competition, and my master's is just as good as theirs. But what I am finding is that we have not brought attention to intercultural talent, and we've been looking cross-culturally so much that it's becoming adversarial. Does the millennials, or in the future, do you plan to kind of merge that gap a bit?
I kind of see that as more of a personal viewpoint. You know, like me, myself, I don't see, you know, I don't know. I don't really view things like that. Like Larry Luster personally, I can't speak for everybody. I can just tell you how Larry feels. I don't see anybody. I see product as the measuring stick. I don't really see like, oh, this white guy is so, you know, amazing and awesome, and I need to be more like him. Like, no. Like, do you have a good product? Like, do you have a good work ethic? Like, I see those as the measuring stick outside of like, oh, I have to do this because they did this or this group of people did it. No. This is personal. You know, my work ethic is personal. My work product is personal, and I measure it against other work products that are superior, not based on race at all.
And KC, just to take that step further, what you're saying is already happening. It may not be happening in the greater Springfield area, but it's happening, right? And it's been happening, right? But we don't control our own narrative. So we're not knowing, or we don't know what's happening, right? Unless we're a part of that. So, Catherine?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank all of you for being here. It's been very enlightening. You all mentioned the importance of your families growing up. And what we hear is that the family is breaking down in the black community. And I guess, first of all, is that true?
Well, let me stop you there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Finish your question.
First, is it true? And second, if it is, what can we do about it?
So can I?
I
can
think
take
everybody's
this?
families are breaking down.
Absolutely.
And
So
nobody has grandparents anymore.
So
like real legit grandparents.
Absolutely. Let's just be clear that there are challenges with any family structure, but the broken rhetoric that black families are broken down, black families are this, black communities that, are talking points of old. That's completely disrespectful. I'm not saying that you're disrespectful, but the notion that you're going to tell me that the black family as a whole is broken down is a smack in the face. It's a smack in the face. We're living proof. They're living proof, right? Are there challenges in families? Heck yeah.
Because that's the human experience, you know,
Absolutely.
in general. That's definitely the human
Absolutely.
experience.
And we are no different, right, than you all are, right? We may have internal differences or the way we view things or even the way we look, but in terms of the emotions, in terms of how we bleed, you know, we both bleed red, right? We're no different. So the talking points, right, we have to control the narrative. That's complete, for lack of a better description, BS.
But I think it brings me back to when I gave my introduction when we're talking about people receiving assistance on programs. I mean, the programs exist for a reason, and there's plenty of us using them for the right reasons versus what you will hear in the media about people scamming the system. You just have to really think about when we talk about is the black family breaking down, well, what do we mean by that? Are we talking about divorce rates? Are we talking about single parents? Because that really is a lot of people's experiences. I definitely think something that unifies us more than not. I mean, we all deal with drug addiction in our families. We all deal with alcoholism, divorce rates, people dying. You know, all of us have those experiences. I just think that sometimes the narrative, as you have said, is perpetuated to marginalize and keep us here as if
Right.
something about the black family is different than all other families.
Absolutely.
To your question.
One more.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for being here and having this conversation with us today. Last summer, I attended some of those Levitt Amp music concerts. And I remember hearing from many of the people that I was enjoying company with that it was one of the few social just kind of opportunities where it was just kind of a melting pot out on the white block. You had people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds just enjoying music, food, fun together. I'm born and raised here. I know you guys, I think most all of you said you were. What are social, like cultural opportunities in Springfield that you see that you really just see a whole mix of people attend and you have a lot of fun at? Or is that lacking, and are there things that could be brought here that would just kind of be fun and create kind of just a natural way for people to engage just kind of on a more pure level?
They need to bring back Lincoln Fest. Now I'll go to my grave on that one, because Lincoln Fest was thebomb.com. And what I loved about Levitt was that you had such vastly different performers, and the most well-attended ones were those of the Latin band that came,
And the reggae.
the reggae band that was here. You know, I love light rock. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, it's really my jam. 98.7, love it. But my God, how many like Journey cover bands can we see in a summer? You know, downtown, it's like, it's too much. I think that people appreciate diversity, especially in music, especially in the summertime. Lincoln Fest is something I would bring back, and I think they got rid of it because they said people were drinking too much, which I don't see what the problem is with that. I think that's a great time. Put them under a tent. Levitt is wonderful. It was just, my God, such a great opportunity to get out. I saw people I hadn't seen before. It was brown, white. Everybody was out. I thought it was great. We need more of that. I think it was very clear at some of the festivals that happened downtown that were very heavy rock and not necessarily local bands. They were not well attended. I just like mix it up a bit.
Right.
But if we could have Levitt all year round, I think that Springfield is hungry for those experiences, to the point of when Memphis was showing here at the Hoagland. That's one of like the best shows that's run here, and it was black director, black choreographer, like all black everything, and it was very well attended. So there definitely is a need and a desire in Springfield to have more diverse events, especially around music, especially when you can bring your own alcohol, which is great. You know, like, when did we stop having fun? Like, when did that have to be a bad thing? So I'm sorry, that's just my passion, right? Like, Air Rendezvous, which I know isn't a thing anymore. There were things that went on around here, the Ethnic Festival,
Oh, yeah. Ethnic
that
Festival
I
is
just
great.
think, you know, as we evolve as a community, we just really need to, it could be really simple, because that stage was small at Levitt, you know, it was very basic, and people just had a good time.
Right.
Parties are great.
And you know, I know this may be overly forward thinking of me to say this, but we need better opportunities for long term, right? I think a lot of times as a city, collectively, we focus on things of the past, and we don't look forward enough to where we want to be 20, 30 years from now in a comprehensive manner. So I'll just leave that there.
It always feels about 10 years behind.
Yeah,
Go ahead and thank our participants, and we'll wrap it up.
thank you. So I think this will be the only time for a while that we'll actually get the last word in front of individuals. My take home, and one of the reasons why I was so instrumental in trying to get the Citizens Clubs to put this together, and thank you to Bob and the rest of the board for allowing this to take place, is we wanted to highlight, right, as well as shut down, right, a lot of the hearsay, a lot of just this rhetoric that the black community in Springfield, the black community as a whole, the black leadership is not doing enough, We're few and far between, right? We're not united, right? We all grew up together, right? We've all been influenced by those individuals who stood up in the audience. We communicate with each other. The black community, in my opinion, is one of the strongest communities here in Springfield. Yes, it may not be highlighted in the news, it may not be highlighted in the media, but we are. We are. So that was the main reason why we were focused in putting this event together. Thank you to Erica, thank you to Larry, thank you to Tiffany.
Thank you.